Good afternoon, everyone. This is a special meeting of the board. Call the meeting to order at 2 p.m. Opening ceremony is a moment of reflection and pledge to the flag led by Trustee Crane. Please rise.
Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Yelsey.
Here.
Trustee Barto.
Here.
Trustee Matoye.
Here.
Trustee Weigand.
Here.
Trustee Crane.
Here.
Trustee Anderson.
Here.
Trustee Ursoilu.
Here.
Adoption of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Trustee Matoye, seconded by Trustee Crane. Roll call vote.
Trustee Yelsey.
Yes.
Trustee Barto.
Yes.
Trustee Matoye.
Yes.
Trustee Weigand.
Yes.
Trustee Crane.
Yes.
Trustee Anderson.
Yes.
Trustee Ursoilu.
Yes.
Community input on special agenda item only. Trustee Matoye.
This is an opportunity for the public to address the board regarding items on the special meeting agenda only. Comments on special meeting agenda items are limited to 3 minutes per comment, up to 20 minutes per topic. A speaker may not relinquish his or her time to another person.
I don't believe we have any. I just see it was a blur of people out there, but I think most of them are district people. So, okay, we're good. Discussion actions. 7A, approve selection of demographer to review trustee area boundaries, and if needed, provide proposed maps and authorize administration to enter into a contract for these services. Mr. Covert.
Am I on? Sounds like I am.
Yes.
Just
Aim it more.
They're directional, so if the pointy end goes at your mouth, we can hear you.
well, isn't that good? And good afternoon, all board members.
Could you hold on for 1 second?
Yes.
And Dr. Smith will just give a little opening.
And I was just going to call on Dr. Smith for an introduction. Thank you.
Great minds. I just wanted to clarify, because of the abbreviated timeline from our last board meeting until now, we couldn't confirm that all of the firms could be here either in person or on Zoom. And so Spencer and I chatted and felt like the fairest thing to do was to just have him represent the proposals. They were all sent to you in advance so you could go through them. And so that's why he is doing that today. He's also prepared to share a bit about the process and how it's different for us than for someone that hadn't gone to trustee areas previously. So he's got a PowerPoint presentation for that and is prepared to represent the proposals, has provided some breakdown for you for your consideration. Spencer, thank you so much. We know you're really busy for being here today.
Thank you very much. And again, good afternoon. And I see there's always an interest in the community for being here, which is a great thing. And as you know, you're not alone in this process. Cities, counties, school districts throughout the state are involved in this. So I thought it would be good if I could start with a PowerPoint describing why we're here today. And I understand that I first do this. And then Rosie said she would immediately hop to my assistance when I pressed F5.
If only we could have Rosie
There
do
we
that for
go.
all of us all the time.
Thank you. Okay. So bear with me a second. You'll see later on there's a reference to community colleges. So I've given this presentation several times before, and the same law is applicable to community colleges. So by way of background for you who are familiar with this, as well as for our audience, that in light of a legal challenge to your district-wide election process, your board in turn reacted to that, gave a great deal of study and attention. In October 2017, you you started moving to a resolution to have a by-trustee area election process. Before that, you had to reside within an area, but everybody was elected district-wide, which was also permissible under the Education Code. And so there are certain legal requirements that were necessary. And I want you to see and remember and take into effect that even though you all adopted and had approved by the county committee in 2018 the trustee areas, the basis upon population was back from the 2010 census. So don't think about, well, there haven't been many changes, in our cities since the 2018, because we're really going all the way back to 2010, which in your district gives it a little bit of a different perspective. Education Code. Here is the law, and I'd like you really to look at the very bottom paragraph A2, which says that the population of each area is, as nearly as may be, the same proportion of the total population of the district as each of the areas. Notice that we're looking at population. We're not looking at registered voters. We're not looking at some other criteria. We're looking at the population. And then as you see, it's based upon research that comes through from each decennial federal census. We're going to talk a minute about what this as nearly as similar means according to the law. This is commonly known as within the deviation of 10%. So I found this summary from a federal court case in which it said the Supreme Court majority has endorsed and followed Justice Brennan's dissent that in turn utilizes plans that have to be within a deviation of 10% or less, meaning that when you look at the total population of each of your 7 trustee areas, there cannot be a greater difference than 10% plus or minus within any area compared to the rest of the areas. So this afternoon, for example, I'll be meeting with another board in which, let's say that trustee area A and trustee area B, because of the way the census blocks came out in the 2020 census, there has to be a little trade between those two districts with respect to census blocks. And something to keep in mind, it is census blocks that we look at. We can't use attendance boundaries when we're trying, albeit logical, we have to look at the way the census blocks come up. And so when you start seeing maps, you will see maps being presented that show the census blocks. Now, we sometimes use a term called safe harbor, and what the rest of this citation goes on to explain is even though you're within the 10%, you still have to meet certain other requirements, such as, in effect, you cannot gerrymander in such a way to put political blocks or racial blocks or other groups that you might think are important if they somehow prevent people from a right to, in effect, one person, one vote, and equal representation from their board members. So why are we here? Well, because of what was going on, the census was delayed. We're now getting the census results. Your demographers have them. All of these demographers have them. And you will have regular board meetings, I understand, that are scheduled for January 11th and February 8th. We have confirmed through your purchasing department that all of the 6 proposers are able to provide you with what's sometimes known as a phase 1 analysis, which is whether you're within the 10% or not, by the January 11th meeting. And then if it turns out that you have some deviation beyond the 10%, then proposed maps will be presented to you for your consideration and adoption by the 8th. Under the Ed Code, if it's necessary to have any redistricting, that has to be done by the end of February. Federal laws. I've alluded to this a little bit. We have Equal Protection, Federal Voting Rights Act, no racial gerrymandering, and we also have the California Voting Rights Act that your demographers and is indicated in the proposals that you received are all qualified with. We also have things that are traditional redistricting principles, such as communities of interest. I happen to live up in the Tustin, Santa Ana area, and so you have an area that's known as North Tustin. Everybody knows where North Tustin is. That, if you will, is a community of interest within Tustin Unified. Districts should be compact. They should be continuous. They should oftentimes be visible if we have natural or man-made boundaries, as you oftentimes have here in both your cities of Costa Mesa and Newport Beach. We give recognition to voters' choices, meaning that where you all reside is a consideration for how boundaries are drawn. We don't try and intentionally come along and put two trustees in the same trustee area. That can happen, but it really shouldn't happen if you're meeting communities of interest, compact, contiguous, and then of course we can also consider planned future growth in how these boundaries are designed. That's, I think, a very simple explanation, and it really is a pretty simple process to follow. I would like now to answer any questions that you may have about that, or let's go ahead, if you wish, and consider the 6 proposals that you received, and then we can go from there. Would you have any questions about that general overview? Yes, Ms. Crane.
I just wanted to make a general comment. Thank you. This was very helpful. For those of us who are new on the board and did not go through the whole redistricting, not redistricting, but, well, the redistricting of the trustee areas, it was very enlightening to know that these population figures were based on the 2010 census, because I assumed that you had done one of our areas. And so this is very helpful because there could be an impact.
It could be. The other thing I wanted to say was there's a reference to no public hearings. You got several proposals from qualified demographers who are really describing the city and county process. And for those of you who were on the board, it sounded, well, gee whiz, we've been there and done that. Had public hearings, had sample maps, got together again, had another board meeting, took final action. And some of you say, well, my friends on the city council are going through that. Yes, they are, but they have a special law for cities and counties that was passed that is requiring that they follow that process. Thank you very much. And Leah, it's good to see you as well as Trustee Anderson. Excuse me, my focus has been that way. Thank you. You all are certainly included. Thank you very much. So what I was trying to say was, this is a simple process. And I talked to your purchasing director, and we agreed that while some of the proposals that you received had one figure quoted, others had their proposals divided into what I call phase 1 or option 1 or step 1, which really means if we come within the 10%, then we don't have to do anything else, unless you want to. But it is not much work, in all due respect, to do the phase 1 analysis if you're a demographer. They have all this information already. They have your boundaries already. And so we reached out and had a submittal from each of the proposers so that we got, in effect, a phase 1 and a phase 2 amount. And I have summarized that for you. Yes.
Thank you. I didn't know if you were going to.
I'm sorry, I was looking before and I just wasn't looking just now.
Okay. I'm going back to why we don't need hearings again. I listened, I did, it just didn't stick. Basically, we don't need hearings because school boards don't need hearings.
You don't need hearings because been there, done that.
Within a short, reasonable amount of time?
Yes.
Okay.
You've satisfied that requirement because you already have by area trustees yourselves
Yes.
in this district. And the legislation that was adopted for cities and counties specifying that is city and county specific.
Got it.
We are governed by that education code section. So you don't need public hearings. I do recommend, of course, that if at all possible, these matters be agendized at regular board meetings. But I noticed that you have one regular board meeting in February, and if for some reason you need to take it up, then maybe you have a study session or something to do that, but you're not having to advertise and have public hearings under the education code process since you already have trustee areas.
Got it. Thank you.
Yes, yes, good question. Another question that I had when I looked at the proposals was some of them had deadlines beyond February 28th. One of them had a deadline in March. One of them had a deadline in March and April. We've contacted them as well, and they've assured us that they can meet the 2 meeting dates in January and February. All 6 can do that. I do want to say that all of these submittals are by well-qualified people. Nobody should be disqualified because they're not qualified, if you will. But you can see that some of them have a lot more experience than others. Some of them have also designed their proposals to be what I might respectfully say are more generic, meaning they discuss cities, counties, special districts, and the like. While a couple of the other proposals that you received have done a lot of work for public schools. And by the way, community colleges are in the same process, same ed code as you notice. So they've listed those. And one of them said, here's the list that we have. I believe by my count, they listed 15 school districts in Southern California. And they said, and we've done a similar amount in Northern California. Obviously well experienced. I was kind of surprised by the price.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It really varies. Even the phase 1 varied. I'd have thought the phase 1 price would have been more in the ballpark, but you know, you have a variation from $2,000 to $12,500. So that's interesting. But you have to remember that these demographers are exceedingly busy by virtue of the cities and counties having to all go through this process. So it's kind of, quite frankly, supply and demand at work here. And if the price is right for them, I guess they can pay overtime to their staff and they'll be able to work on Saturdays and Sundays to get this done. And the same thing, there were some big swings, if you will, by very qualified firms, but very large amounts in consideration to what others were offered. And by that I mean, in part, I attribute that to they described an extensive outreach process, much like the process that you all had followed before. So as a result, I'm sure that they wanted to let you know they could do that, and they've included that within their price. But as a result of that, you have several proposals which are much higher than the other proposals that include steps and public hearings and multiple meetings that they have to attend. And they're having a difficult time, you know, scheduling all these things. So I'm sure that was taken into consideration. I'd also like to say that there were 2 comments on interactive maps. When school districts went through this process before where we were having public hearings, it was common for demographers to put down that they could provide interactive maps so the public could participate and you could be right there and you could see, what if you drew the line this way, and then what would the population be? So that's alluded to in the RFP. And I noticed that one demographer, and I called it out in my summary, said, we really don't want to engage in that process. We're the demographers. Public wants to tell us, you know, what they think, or board members want to tell us, well, what about instead of Bear and Baker, it's now going to be, you know, some other intersection over here, consistent with a census block. And they say, but we're responsible for what we're doing, and we respectfully are not going to provide interactive maps. And then I called out to your attention that another person said we can do that, and then they called that out in their bid for an additional $5,000. Qualifications, some list a few people, some list a lot. You can see, you know, who's a geography major and who's not. You can see people that have other different backgrounds as well. And then finally, with respect to the deliverables, which is the most important thing, they've all committed to your meetings in January and February. So it is a public decision process. I thought that might be a good summary, you know, to get you all going. And with that, I'll turn it over to our board president and your discussion. And I can answer any other questions, but you all have read them, and it's really a dialogue and a decision by yourselves for who you feel most comfortable with to meet your needs. And I think consideration of cost as well. Thank you very much for this opportunity. And I want to thank our district staff as well for the work they did. We have a question, I think.
Yeah.
Just,
Thank you.
it's quick. When it says page reference, what is
That's in their proposal.
in their proposal? Thank you.
And I changed it slightly because, you know, your computer shows one page, but when you look at a proposal, you can come up with a different page. So if you were looking at a hard copy,
It would be on that page.
yeah, and I
And if you're on a computer, it's close.
well, and also I had a debate. Do I count the cover sheet as one? Or do I? So anyway,
Perfect. Thank you.
I did count the cover sheet as one in this version.
And first, I just wanted to publicly thank Spencer for getting the detailed information to
Yes.
us on Friday to give us time to read through that. So I know everyone, all 7 of us, really appreciated having that.
You're
So,
very welcome, of course.
Trustee Crane.
Just one more question, Spencer. So you had mentioned earlier that because we went through this process a few years ago, we don't have to have the public meetings.
Public
the
hearings.
Public hearings.
It's also
So- and-
because we're already in zone. It's also
Right, we're
because we're
already
already in
right.
trustee zones.
Right, so, but some of the costs that are given in those proposals include that as a given, as part of their package. So can we do
I don't.
is that part of the negotiation? Do you know what I mean?
I'd have to turn that over to the purchasing department.
Okay.
I really don't know, because they may feel that's part of their MO. They may feel that's the best way to do it. They may feel whatever. And, you know, we did ask them to give us a proposal, and they do know what the education code says.
Right.
They were included with trustee maps. Some of them don't include those various bits and pieces. So I just can't answer yes or no on how that would work. If you called up somebody and it said, well, how about $79.95 or something like that?
Thank you.
Trustee Ursulu?
Hi, thank you. Can you hear me okay? Okay. Spencer, I had one question regarding challenges to the findings, legal challenges. Is it uncommon to get challenged legally when you're just updating your already districted zones versus, like, for instance, when you did it last time, when it was the first time we were put into zones? If there were legal challenges, would it usually come up last time as opposed to this?
Much so. Last time was also subject to county committee review and approval. This time is not.
Wait,
Some of the proposers had mentioned their ability to, withstand and do those, legal things. But if that's not a needed item,
And they were well-experienced demographers. They one of them mentioned a very well-qualified law firm by name. but they all made sure that the school district understood that that was extra after the fact costs. And quite frankly, one of the reasons why the board and all the number of school districts have done this is that the litigation is so very expensive that it's better to get it right the first time around than try and be in litigation.
Does anybody have any other questions, comments, recommendations, preferences? If, I just, what,
I was going to say, you mean before we start just talking?
we're talking,
Okay.
yeah.
Oh, this is the talking about. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Well, some of us, some of us on the board before were had done a lot of research, were very particular. I'd like to hear from them, like Krista. You were really into it, so I'd like to know what your feelings are on this.
I mean, this is my first time going through it. So as I'm looking at this, I'm shocked as well, Spencer, at the difference in price. So, I mean, I just thank you so much for putting this together and letting me understand. Going through, I always asked for the Census and Redistricting 101, and I think you gave that to us. So thank you. You know, when it comes to picking which one I would prefer, I think I'd like to hear a little bit more from everyone and what their thoughts are. And if we have one that we would recommend, does staff have a recommendation of these after looking at these 6? What
Do
they
you want to hear our recommendation before or after we hear board comment?
That is a, well, I mean, I haven't reached out to them and contacted them,
Right.
so it would be interesting to hear after you have talked to them what their
The
thoughts. What are your thoughts?
superintendent and I have had a discussion, and we looked at one group that we thought that seemed well qualified and seemed a reasonable price. And we can certainly share that if you want to hear our recommendation.
And who seemed to know their audience,
There you go.
that they were speaking to a school district. And having served many other school districts, that kind of mattered, where some of them, as you said, were generic. And I get it. In their defense, short turnaround, short timeline, they may have just sent us what they typically send. But we also appreciated they knew their audience.
Trustee Barto?
Yes. I did research and I had heard a name come up between school districts both in the past and this year. And I didn't say, hey, we're out looking, but just kind of asked what people had gone through before. And I'd heard a lot of really good things about Davis demographics. So that would be where I'm leaning towards, just based on the different recommendations I've heard in past years.
Trustee Crane?
Yeah, it's in my mind, I basically started doing a process of elimination, and those that were my top 3 were basically Davis, Arda, and Bear, because they seem to focus on having worked with unified school districts, and especially in Southern California. And I think also the pricing was quite reasonable and professional in their, in their packages that they sent to us. There was definitely effort.
Leah.
Trustee Ursolo?
Hi, thank you. So I think similar to what, can you hear me okay?
Sleeping
Can
get
you hear me? Can you hear me now? Is that, are you hearing me? Can you hear me now while I'm talking?
Try again.
Can you hear me now while I'm talking? Okay, great. Similar to what Trustee Crane was saying, for me, the ones that stood out were Bear and Davis. Bear really seems to have some deep capabilities in redistricting as their primary sort of focus, and the analytic folks that they have seem to have just a great depth of knowledge around not only the redistricting, but protecting your decision from legal challenges, as well as outreach if it is at all needed. Because it might be that in phase 1, they find, oh my goodness, we actually do need to change, X or Y district by a bit. So they seemed to have a really strong knowledge, and Davis as well came across as having very deep knowledge. I know that ARDA struck me as being very sort of boutique, and I don't know that the capacity would be there for what we need right now, given the crowded fields, as Spencer was mentioning. A lot of folks are trying to do this. And then another one that jumped out at me, cooperative strategies. They mentioned that they're working on 55 different school districts right now. And I thought, wow, 55 for this year. Oh, can you hear me okay?
Because I value her opinion on this.
I do too.
And we can't hear Ashley.
Try,
We can only do one of them at a time, either Leah or Ashley.
Okay.
okay, well, let's keep on Leah.
We know that, but the volume is the problem.
It would be so much simpler.
I'm trying to switch back and forth between here and there.
Okay, Leah, give it 3 seconds and then start.
Devices are on as loud as they can be.
Audrey expects that she should be good.
Leah, try.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me this time? Okay. What did you hear from last time? Do I repeat the whole thing or the whole thing? Okay. Uh, thank you, Carol. You're really good with the hand sign. Okay, so I just wanted to agree with what Carol was saying, that Bear strikes me as having really deep knowledge and also an ability to withstand any legal challenges if they arise, although it's highly unlikely, but it's good to have that kind of expertise on your side. And also they did have a deep breadth of community engagement if it is needed, if they find in round one that they do need to go to phase two. Bear just struck me as sort of an ideal group, and Davis also seem to have the kind of expertise that we need. And similar to what Trustee Bartow shared, I've heard that they're very highly regarded also. And their expertise was in line with what I would like us to have on board. The ones that struck me as less likely was ARDA, because that seems like a capacity issue. It seems like a very boutique firm that may not be able to handle the depth of what we might need, and we might not need it, but we don't know that until we do phase one. And then cooperative strategies struck me as they listed that they're working, they might be overworked right now. It sounded like they said they were working with 55 school districts, if I read that right, for the 21-22 year, which would be really impacted if they're trying to work across all those districts. And if we did need more in-depth phase two from them, that was a little bit of a red flag for me. So I just wanted to second what Trustee Crane was saying about Bear and Davis. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Trustee
Anderson?
But wait.
Very well. I'll go if you'd like. I think for me, my top pick is Bear. I really like their approach and the way that they do community engagement if we need to. I also, one of my top priorities, if we get to it, is to have an interactive interface. I feel like that was one of the things that was missing last time, so that was one of my top priorities. So There's my first choice. Cooperative is my second. I was happy to see on this report that they included that they had 4 staff members rather than 1 consultant that it looked like when we first saw them. And then my third choice is Davis.
I liked Davis, was my first choice. One of the things that I appreciated was that they have a staff of 20. That made me a little more comfortable that they had more people ready to jump in now. And having an interactive map this time for me was not important. I would have loved an interactive map last time because we had lots of time. We were doing a dramatic change from the past, and the public could have easily seen why moving it 1 block could really change things, and that would have been great. But this time, even if we have changes, I don't believe there will be drastic changes, and it will slow things down if we have 45,000 different maps coming back and forth, or 7 if it's just ours. Right, and the Davis quote was a reasonable quote to me. Bear seemed still pretty high.
Bears among the highest.
Yes, but so my leaning is towards Davis right now.
Anyone else? Yeah.
You?
Chris?
Oh, yeah. I would say number 1 is Davis, just because I like their references. I like the amount of staff they have with our truncated timeline. 2 would probably be Bear. User-friendly map I thought would be interesting and to see. And then 3, Cooperative. I don't know why, and this maybe should not be the case, but it was just so much cheaper where I was just curious on their abilities or what they knew what was going on. So anyway, so those are Davis, then Bear, then Cooperative.
Well, it seems like there's 3 that are mentioned: Davis, Cooperative, and Bear. So maybe we just want to limit it to that at this point. I do find the difference in price not a reason to pick someone, but there's a big difference. I mean, when, we're talking about Bear that's going to be could be over 72,000 down to Cooperative, which is, 15,000. And I know Cooperative does multiple districts, but they've all told us that they will meet our timelines and do the job. So, and then David, I could actually go with any 3 of those. I just think that Bear my feeling is I could go with any 3. One of them is really expensive. And why do we want to spend that extra money when we're not sure? I mean, none of us are like definitive of, okay, this feels like it is the right firm. So I would like to hear.
Yep, me too.
Trustee Crane?
No, I think you were probably going to say next is I'd like to hear the recommendation of staff and superintendent.
But go ahead.
Mind reader.
Go ahead.
Would you like to take it?
Sure, absolutely. Spencer, correct me wherever I misstep. We didn't make any assumptions about actions you haven't taken yet, because as staff, we never want to do that and assume we know where you're headed. And so we haven't assumed that you will do more community outreach than you are legally or ed code required to do. So we didn't look at that as a benefit or perk that was necessary to our calculus. So when we looked at them, those 3 were strong for sure, but we felt because Cooperative Strategies does schoolwork, has done a lot of schoolwork, addressed it to us, their price was more than reasonable. And it seemed, and this is something that Spencer and I chatted about, some of these folks have doubled their rates of late, and Spencer addressed this. It's crunch time, they're busy. What certainly could have happened is we got the rate from one of these, and we got the truncated rate from others. And so these were probably a lot less if this had happened a long time ago. Not to go down that road or rabbit hole right now.
Right.
But given that they work with school districts, we felt like their proposal was strong. The price seemed better, so we were leaning towards cooperative strategies. But certainly all of them are qualified. I would think about this too. Now, part of it is where you think this lands. Is it really going to be a one-phase process? Because then the rates are different, right? Then, in fact, Bear isn't more expensive than Davis, still more expensive than cooperative strategies. And again, that's not the reason to do it,
Right.
but as you consider, if all things are equal, they can all do the work. What do we know we're going to be out? Well, we know we're going to be out phase one. We
Yes.
may or may not be out phase two. So we landed on cooperative strategies, but we brought this to you because we really wanted you to be able to weigh in on this because it affects all of you. And so that was just our take. Respectfully, though, defer to all of you.
Any other comments?
Rosie, is it possible to send that link, that Dropbox link that Jonathan had sent us?
Send it to, you have it on your,
Yeah, I'm trying to locate. Maybe faster.
I emailed it to you Saturday morning.
Okay, Saturday morning.
Yeah.
Leah, Trustee Ursula, I'm sorry.
Hi, can you hear me this time? Okay, so I have a question. I mean, thank you for that, Dr. Smith, for the explanation of why cooperative strategies was high on your list. Can you explain to me or staff, because cooperative strategies, there was something about their proposal that just struck me as odd, and I can't figure out if I was reading it wrong or if it is, and that's why I put Bear and Davis so much higher. They mention in there that they're currently working on 55 school districts for this redistricting year for 21-22. And they list 4 staff people, but only 2 of those staff have it listed as their key activity, redistricting. And then of all of those side, when you look at the person and it showed their side representative works, key projects, only 2 of those items on the whole 4 pages were redistricting. And I thought, it just seemed like such a minority of their work. But then in the appendix, they attach and they show that they've done all these school districts. So I just am seeing a disjoint, and I don't know if it's a disjoint in staffing or if I'm not reading it right, but something is a red flag there and I can't quite put my finger on it. So I would love to hear your perspective on that.
We're not trying to sway you either way. When we looked at it with the commitment that they could meet those dates and that they have qualified folks and they've worked with school districts and are working, that's why we landed there. But again, that's why this item is before you with multiple options and not just one option, because we really want the 7 of you to feel comfortable with this really important decision. Spencer, I don't know if you want to speak to, as you've read more of these than I have, if you saw red flags similar to Trustee Ersoylu or not. But again, just so we're clear, that we didn't lead with that recommendation because we really want the 7 of you to feel comfortable with it.
I think that Dr. Ursulu's comment about the force staffing and looking what they do, 2 of those gentlemen were very much involved in developer fees, facilities use, staffing use, and then there were 2 who had geography backgrounds and listed trustee districting on that. So our belief was they gave us a proposal. They're committed to meeting our needs. And so when we looked at everything, that was our choice. And as the superintendent has said, all of the groups are qualified, but then we really started to try and look at groups. There was a reference to it earlier about Davis, and their proposal was short, but it was to the point. And I happened to talk to the Davis people at CSBA and had asked them to be sure and send us a proposal because I'm working with them in several other districts as well.
On the cooperative strategies group, they said 4 key personnel. Does that mean the two that are totally geographical and demographic, they have people working under them too, so it would
I'm not going to make that assumption that they
Okay.
have bean counters on contract.
Got it.
You know,
Got it. Mm-hmm.
in all due respect, but you know, they're.
With all due respect to bean counters, not a technical term.
Thank you.
I think
Yeah,
the point is we're not going to assume things we don't know.
Right.
got it.
Are there any other comments? Does someone feel qualified or? Trustee Anderson.
Thank you. I did have one more comment, just based on hearing the recommendation. One of the things that I felt was a key bonus last time of using the former firm was that they were based in Irvine. So when we were having conversations, they seemed to understand what we were talking about. They were familiar with main streets. And so I think that could be one benefit if we did go with cooperative strategies, because I think that was really helpful. I just wanted to point that out. Thanks.
They're based in Irvine, cooperative strategies.
Which one? Cooperative?
She said,
Yeah,
I think she's.
I
think you used last time the benefit was, but I think she can be heard. So, Trustee Anderson, if you wanted to clarify your point, that'd be great.
The firm that we used last time was based in Irvine, and my understanding is Cooperative Strategies is also based in Irvine, and I believe it's the only one that is in Orange County. So I just thought that was helpful last time to have kind of a basic understanding when we were talking through maps.
And I would agree with that. Last time it was really important because we were just changing so much, and I mean changing streets
So
and
much.
corners and everything like that. But I agree, if there is one that's more local, I think that helps as well. Trustee Crane.
Yeah, I'm looking at the cooperative strategies proposal, and Andrew Bishop, who's the senior associate director, it looks like he's worked for he's done work for Irvine Unified, Palm Springs Capo Unified. I like the fact that he's got expertise in this, not expertise, but at least knowledge in this region. So that could be definitely a plus to Trustee Anderson's point.
Okay, so.
I think we can eliminate Bear.
Well, and does someone have a recommendation?
Can I recommend we narrow it down to 2?
That's where I was.
Sorry.
Okay.
I recommend we decide between Davis and cooperative strategies.
Yes.
Agree.
Agreed.
Okay, if people have comments on that, if not, I would recommend, I will make a recommendation, and then if it's not that one, it could be the other one.
I'm fine with either. So.
But given that some of the comments we've heard, cost-wise,
It's
location, staff recommendation, attorney recommendation, I would recommend that we choose cooperative strategies.
I have a question on that beforehand. Do we want to include the web-based tool for community members or not?
Well, I think, could we get to that if we needed a phase 2?
Ah,
That's
perfect.
a phase 2. Yeah.
Ding, 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 ding.
So it's not something we have to decide.
Perfect. I second the motion. Didn't you move?
Okay, yes.
Okay.
I've never
Well-
moved before. Moved by
Oh, wait, Trustee Anderson has her. Trustee
Seconded by
Anderson.
Trustee Metoyer.
Wait,
Comments?
somebody has one. Raise your hand. Who had a comment?
Trustee Anderson.
Oh, okay, Trustee Anderson.
I said I second that, President Yelsey.
Second.
Okay. Seconded by Trustee Anderson. I just didn't see her quickly enough. Sometimes it's hard looking in all these directions. Okay, roll call vote?
Trustee Yelsey,
Yes.
Trustee Barto,
Yes.
Trustee Matoye,
Yes.
Trustee Wigand,
Yes.
Trustee Crane,
Yes.
Trustee Anderson,
Yes.
Trustee Ursulou.
Sure, yes.
Okay. We've got a firm.
Unanimous.
We'll get this done in a timely manner. Thank you all. Thank you, Spencer and staff. I know that's a lot of work to get all this together so quickly, so it is much appreciated. Are there any other comments before we leave, or are you okay?
Thank you for thanking staff.
No,
Oh,
I think.
thank you for doing double
We know,
for
and we know
us.
your job is not done. There will be a lot more you'll be involved in. So without that, do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all. Thank you.